I always believed the slow death of a relationship came in obvious stages. Long silences, missed dinners, forgotten anniversaries. What I never expected was for the unraveling of my marriage to begin with a software update. It was a Wednesday. Rain tapped against the office window in a steady rhythm. The kind of weather that made you feel lonelier in an open-plan office full of muted keyboard taps. I'm a software engineer at a mid-sized firm that prides itself on its tight-knit culture and collaborative energy, which mostly means free coffee and no doors. But I didn't mind. Work had always been my space, clean, logical, structured. Unlike life, I was debugging a client-side patch for a dating app we were contracted to overhaul. The task was straightforward. Fix a rendering bug causing some profiles to load incorrectly on certain devices. I'd done this kind of thing 1,000 times. Pull up the profile cache, trace the user ID, simulate different environments. Repeat. Boring, routine work. But something strange happened that afternoon. A profile loaded that made me stop breathing. Her name was Hannah Sparks, not her real name, obviously, but close enough to feel like a slap. The main photo was unmistakably her. My wife, Hannah. Her eyes, her smile, the tilt of her head, captured in the same way she posed for me back when we still took road trips on the weekends. Only now, her photo sat on a screen that promised connection, chemistry, and closeness to someone that wasn't me. I blinked. Maybe I was mistaken. Maybe someone stole her photo. Maybe it was an old account she forgot to delete. That's what I told myself, even as my stomach coiled and my hands went cold. I clicked into the metadata out of instinct, eyes scanning for timestamps, activity logs. Recent login, yesterday. Last message sent. This morning, 8:14 a.m. Current status, online. My hands hovered over the mouse, paralyzed. I'd left for work at 7:45 a.m. Today, we kissed goodbye in the kitchen like we always did. A peck on the cheek, a don't forget your umbrella, and a wave as I backed out of the driveway. At 8:14 a.m., she was sending messages to strangers on a dating site. The message log wasn't part of my task, but I opened it anyway. I had the clearance. A short string of texts appeared, generic and harmless. Hey there, you seem interesting. Love your travel pics. Where were they taken? You seem like someone who knows how to enjoy life, smiley face. Not explicit, not damning, but the tone was light, flirtatious. She was using the kind of voice she hadn't used with me in months. That realization hurt more than I could have anticipated. I didn't leave work that afternoon. I sat at my desk long after the office emptied, just staring at the screen. It's strange what betrayal looks like in code. Line breaks, timestamps, IP addresses. No drama, no shouting, just cold, undeniable data. When I finally left, I drove home with a tight knot in my chest. My knuckles whitened against the steering wheel as I rehearsed what I might say. Hey, so, I found something weird at work today. Do you remember that app one told you about? Is there anything you want to tell me? But when I walked through the front door, Hannah was in the kitchen humming softly as she chopped vegetables. The kids were watching cartoons in the living room, their laughter echoing down the hall. The house smelled like garlic and thyme. A normal Wednesday night. She looked up and smiled. Hey babe, you're late. Everything okay at work? I swallowed the words that sat at the edge of my tongue. Yeah, I lied. Just a long day. That night, I lay awake in bed long after she fell asleep beside me. Her breathing was steady, peaceful. She curled toward me in her sleep like she always did, one arm draped over my chest. I stared at the ceiling, feeling like a stranger in my own life. The next morning, I got up early and drove to a cafe across town, pretending I had an early meeting. Instead, I opened my laptop and pulled up the admin panel again. I checked her account activity. She'd been online late last night, just after midnight, while I was in the shower. I clicked through more of her profile. She listed herself as single. No kids. Interests: hiking, independent films, jazz, and late-night conversations over wine. That was the part that got me. We used to do that. Before the kids, before our schedules became a series of logistics, before everything went quiet. The photos were new. She'd taken them in our backyard. I recognized the fence I still hadn't repainted. One image showed her in a sweater I bought her for our anniversary last fall. Her hair was done. Her smile was effortless. She looked radiant, not the tired, irritable Hannah I'd grown used to over the past year. I leaned back, letting the weight of it all sink in. She had created a whole separate version of herself, one that existed without me, and I hadn't even noticed. That evening, I played the part again. Husband, father. I read to our daughter, Ellie, while our son, Max, brushed his teeth. I helped clean the dishes, folded some laundry, nodded along as Hannah talked about a new project at work. But I was watching her closely now, not just listening, but analyzing. Every glance at her phone, every prolonged pause before answering a question, every little shift in her tone. The next morning, I took things further. Using my admin privileges, I pulled her IP history. She used the app during work breaks, mostly from her phone. Occasionally from home, late at night. She had 2 frequent message threads. One with a man named Daniel J. The other with someone called Redwood Walker. I opened both. Nothing sexually explicit, at least not yet. But there was familiarity. Laughter in text form. Shared stories. Her latest message read, "I wish I could talk to you in person. It's hard pretending sometimes." That line cut deeper than anything else. I needed more. Proof that couldn't be denied. So I set up a clone of her phone, using software I'd designed myself. It copied every message, every photo, every email in real time. It was invasive, unethical, and I didn't care. The messages rolled in over the next few days. She told Daniel J. that her husband was nice, but emotionally distant. She told Redwood Walker that she sometimes felt like she was living someone else's life. They responded with sympathy and flattery. It was textbook, a playbook I hadn't realized people still used in the digital age. Then came the bombshell, a planned meetup. "This Friday," she wrote to Daniel J. "Corner Cafe, 6 p.m. I'll be wearing the red scarf you like." Friday. I watched her get ready. She curled her hair, applied a touch more makeup than usual. She wore the red scarf. I kissed her on the cheek as she left. "Have fun at girls' night," I said, my voice even. She smiled and walked out the door. I waited 5 minutes, then grabbed my keys. I knew where she was going, and I wasn't going to stay behind this time. By the time I pulled into the alley behind Corner Cafe, dusk had crept in like fog, painting everything in muted shades of blue and gray. I parked a block away to avoid being seen and walked the rest of the distance on foot. My heart thudded with a weight I hadn't felt since my father's funeral. The cafe sat on the corner of 8th and Logan, trendy, artsy, filled with Edison bulbs and reclaimed wood. Hannah and I had been there once, years ago, before the kids. She said it was cozy without trying too hard. Now, it was where she'd chosen to meet someone else. I crossed the street and entered the bookstore next door. The front window gave a partial view of the cafe's interior. I found a spot between a stack of new fiction releases and leaned into the glass, feigning interest in a hardback thriller while my eyes scanned the cafe. She was there. Hannah, red scarf around her neck like a signal flare. She sat near the window, sipping from a teacup, her posture relaxed in a way I hadn't seen in months. There was a lightness to her expression, not exactly joy, but anticipation. The way someone might look before a second date. Then he arrived. Brown leather jacket, salt and pepper beard, confident gait. Not handsome in a classical sense, but with that unshakable calm some men seem to wear like armor. He leaned down, greeted her with a kiss, not on the lips, but too familiar for strangers. She smiled. He sat. They began talking like this was normal, like none of this required explanation. I watched them for 10 minutes. 20. Long enough to see her laugh twice, tuck her hair behind her ear, lean forward like she was truly listening. Then he reached across the table and took her hand. That was when I left. The rest of the night passed in fragments. I drove without direction, past closed shops and dimly lit streets, my fingers clenched around the wheel until they cramped. I ended up at a 24-hour diner 3 towns over, ordered coffee I didn't drink, stared at the cracked Formica table like it held answers. Somewhere between 1 and 2 a.m., I drove home. Her car was already in the driveway. Inside, the house was silent. I didn't check our bedroom. I went to the guest room instead. In the dark, I opened the clone of her phone on my laptop. A message had come through just an hour earlier. Tonight felt real. I needed that. "Thank you, Hannah," Daniel J. replied. "Same. You're easy to be around. No masks." I closed the laptop without responding. I wasn't ready to face what I'd seen. Not yet. Over the next few days, I became 2 people. There was the version of me Hannah saw, the dependable husband, slightly distracted, perhaps, but still present. I helped with homework, made dinner, asked about her day. She seemed happier. That should have hurt more than it did. And then there was the other me, the one who logged into her account each night, reading messages not meant for my eyes. Most were benign. Movie recommendations, book talk, gentle teasing. But one conversation stood out. It was with Redwood Walker, the other man. Unlike Daniel J., this one had a sharper tone. Their messages crackled with tension, charged with an energy that made me nauseous. There was a history there, something older, deeper. You're still seeing him? Redwood Walker asked one night. We just had tea, she replied. Stop lying. You don't do just tea with people you kiss. Don't do this, she wrote back. Not now. I couldn't stop reading. I scrolled through past messages and saw that their exchange went back months. Longer than Daniel J. They'd been meeting during her late nights at work. He wasn't local. His messages came from a different city, 2 hours south. But when he visited, she made time for him. Carefully scheduled, quietly kept. And he wasn't some random fling. He knew about me. In one message, he wrote, You've been playing the suburban wife for too long. You said he doesn't see you. You said you felt invisible. She responded, He tries. I know he does. But I can't be someone I'm not. That line echoed in my mind for hours. The DNA kits arrived that week. I hadn't wanted to go down that road, not really. But now, I needed clarity. I swabbed Max and Ellie during bedtime stories, made it a game. I swabbed myself in the garage afterward and packed the kits like toxic evidence. When I dropped the envelope at the lab the next morning, the technician asked if I wanted results via email or mail. Email, I said. Fast as possible. He nodded. You'll have them by Thursday. I barely slept the next 2 nights. Work became mechanical. I typed, I debugged, I tested lines of code I didn't even remember writing. My boss praised my efficiency. Whatever you're doing, keep it up, he said. I smiled hollow. At home, Hannah was attentive. Too attentive. She touched my arm more. Asked about my day. Initiated intimacy one night, and I went along with it, even as my mind replayed her words to someone else. You said he doesn't see you. Was that what this was? Her guilt? Or a last attempt to salvage something she'd already abandoned? Thursday arrived. The results came in just after noon. I was alone in the office lounge when the email landed. Subject: confidential paternity results. My hands trembled as I opened it. Max, 99. 998% match. Ellie, 99. 996% match. Both mine. A strange mix of relief and grief washed over me. Relief, because some part of me was still irrationally afraid. Grief, because it made everything else worse. She hadn't built a new life out of trauma or confusion. She hadn't run from some hidden resentment about our kids. She chose this. She wanted this. That night, I opened a blank document on my laptop. I needed to do something. Anything. Anger hadn't come yet. Not fully. What I felt was colder, more calculated. I didn't want a confrontation. I didn't want closure. I wanted control. So I crafted a plan. I created a new profile on the dating app. A fake identity. Different city, different job, just enough truth to sound real. I used photos of a friend from college, someone handsome, magnetic, the kind of guy Hannah used to turn her head for. And then I matched with her. It took 2 hours. A slight tweak in radius, some minor adjustments to age preference, and her profile surfaced like a shark fin. I sent a message. You look like someone with secrets. I like secrets. She responded 20 minutes later. And what would you do if I told you mine? I stared at the screen, the cursor blinking like a pulse. I'd keep them better than your husband does. Her reply came fast. How do you know about him? I didn't answer right away. I wanted her to sit with it. And then I sent one more message before logging off for the night. Because I am him. She didn't reply. Not right away. I stared at the screen for 30 minutes, expecting the little typing indicator to flicker to life. But nothing came. Just silence. I refreshed the page. Logged out. Logged back in. Still nothing. My message hung in the air like smoke. Because I am him. I imagined her staring at the screen, heart pounding, trying to convince herself it wasn't real. That it was some cruel coincidence. Some glitch. But she knew. The way I phrased it, the rhythm of the message, that was me. It was always me. And that's what made it worse. When I got home that night, the house was eerily calm. No clatter from the kitchen. No cartoons blaring from the living room. The kids were already in bed, the dishes done, the lights dimmed. It was like she had preemptively removed all noise, leaving only air thick with something unsaid. Hannah was on the couch, sitting upright, still in her work clothes, the red scarf folded neatly beside her. Her phone rested face down on the coffee table, screen dark. She looked up as I walked in. I said nothing, just hung up my coat, walked to the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water. The sound of the faucet filled the silence. When I turned, she was watching me. Her voice broke the quiet. "We need to talk." I nodded. "We do." But I walked past her, up the stairs, into our bedroom. I didn't trust myself to talk yet, not without screaming, or worse, saying something I couldn't take back. My heart wasn't racing. It was steady, cold, focused. She didn't follow. That night, I lay in bed with my eyes wide open, listening for movement. A floorboard creak, a hesitant knock, a sigh through the hallway. Nothing. Just the ticking of the clock and the weight of two bodies sleeping in different beds under the same roof. At 3:11 a.m., I got up and checked the cloned phone. She had deleted the app. The profile gone. Conversations wiped. Photos removed. She'd scrubbed it clean, as if she could erase everything by dragging it to a digital trash bin. But the clone still had it all. Every message, every picture, every detail. I sat in the dark, scrolling through her words to men who weren't me. And with each message, I felt myself become a little more hollow. Less hurt, less angry, more resolved. I wasn't going to explode. I was going to unmake her, gently, piece by piece. The next morning, Hannah acted like nothing had happened. She made coffee, packed the kids' lunches, asked if I needed a ride to the train station. I declined. She didn't ask why. We played our parts through the day, routine movements, shared silence, until evening came and the kids were asleep, and the silence felt too sharp to ignore. She entered the room just after 10 p.m. I was at my desk, pretending to work. "I saw the message," she said. I didn't turn around. "Which one?" Her voice trembled. "The one from the dating app." I didn't know it was you." "Is that supposed to make it better?" I asked. She didn't answer. I turned my chair slowly, looked her in the eyes. "How long?" She shifted. "Which one?" That answer told me everything. I leaned forward. "Start with the first." She hesitated. "Almost a year ago." I nodded. "The one from 2 hours away. Redwood Walker." She winced. "His name is Greg. And the others?" "There weren't that many," she said too quickly. "How many is not that many, Hannah?" She looked down. 3. Not all physical. Her voice cracked. I felt like I disappeared in this house. I needed to feel seen. I stood up, walked past her, and stood at the window. Outside, the street was quiet. The neighbor's porch light flickered. When did I stop being enough? I asked softly. Her answer came as a whisper. "I don't know." And maybe that was the most honest thing she'd said all year. Over the next week, we pretended to be normal. We ate dinner together, took the kids to the park, played the smiling couple for the neighbors. But beneath the surface, the ice was cracking. She kept trying, doing chores I normally handled, bringing me coffee in the morning, asking if I wanted to talk. But it was like watching someone rearrange chairs on a sinking ship. I no longer needed answers. I needed distance. So I booked a hotel downtown under the pretense of a work retreat. 3 nights. Just space. I packed lightly, told Hannah I'd call each night to say goodnight to the kids. She nodded, barely masking the hurt. That first night, in the sterile silence of the hotel room, I opened the clone again. And there it was, a new message from Greg. "Redwood Walker. Heard from you lately. Is everything okay? Or did hubby find out?" My hands hovered over the keyboard. And then I had an idea. A small, venomous idea. I opened the clone, opened Hannah's messaging panel, and began to type as her. "Things got complicated. He knows. But he doesn't know about you yet." "Not really." Greg replied. "You want to talk? I can come up again. Same hotel." I smiled. I responded. "That would help. Friday at 7. Room 427. I'll be there." He responded with a winking emoji. I closed the laptop slowly, my reflection faint in the darkened screen. The decision was made. Friday came. At 6 p.m. I checked into room 427 at the Glenwood Hotel, the same room she used last spring, according to her message history. At 6:45, I positioned the hotel room exactly the way she had. I'd studied the background from a photo she'd sent Greg. Same red throw pillow. Same view of the skyline. Even the same wine glass, courtesy of room service. At 6:55, I turned off the lights and waited. At 7:03, there was a knock. I opened the door. Greg stood there, a sheepish grin on his face, holding a small bottle of wine. He didn't recognize me. Not at first. Not until I stepped forward, wordless, and watched his smile vanish. "You're not." "No," I said. "I'm her husband." He stepped back, but I raised my hand calmly. "Relax. I'm not here to fight." He didn't move. I just wanted to see the man who thought he could take pieces of my life and leave no fingerprints. "I didn't know," he began. "Yes, you did," I interrupted. "You knew she was married. You just didn't care." "I'm sorry," he muttered. "No, you're not," I replied. "But you will be." He furrowed his brow. I handed him an envelope. Inside were printouts. Screenshots of every message, every photo, every lie. "Give that to your wife." His face went pale. "I know her name. Andrea, right? I thought she deserved to know the kind of man she married." He tried to speak, but I was already closing the door. As it clicked shut, I exhaled for the first time in days. Back at home, I told Hannah I'd be staying at the hotel a few more nights. I needed her to wonder. I needed her to feel what it was like to sit in silence, waiting for the storm. Let her guess which line she crossed that I couldn't uncross. Let her sit with it. Let it fester. I returned home Sunday evening, precisely 40 minutes after Hannah had tucked the kids in. I needed the house quiet. No distractions. Just her and me, and the empty space between us. She was in the kitchen, rinsing out a pot, still in her jeans and cardigan. She turned when she heard the door close. Her smile was tentative, uncertain, hopeful, weary. "Hey," she said. "Hey," I replied. No kiss. No hug. Just silence, heavy and awkward. I walked past her to the fridge, grabbed a bottle of water, and sat at the dining table. She dried her hands and joined me. "I'm glad you're back," she offered. I nodded. We sat there, facing each other across the oak table we'd picked out together years ago, back when decisions felt like joint ventures instead of personal declarations. Finally, she spoke. "Are you going to leave me?" The words were soft, but there was something behind them. Not fear, exactly. More like dread mixed with resignation. She knew she deserved whatever was coming. But I wasn't ready to answer. "Not yet." "I don't know," I said honestly. "Do you want me to?" "No." Her voice cracked. "I want to fix this." I let that sit in the air for a while. I don't think you can fix something you buried under a pile of secrets. I made mistakes, yes. You made a second life, I cut in. You didn't just cheat, Hannah. You wrote a whole story without me. Tears welled in her eyes, but I wasn't moved. Not anymore. I had cried my own tears. Quietly. Alone. She reached for my hand across the table, but I didn't move. Her fingers hovered, then retreated. "I need you to listen," she said. "No lies. No excuses. Then talk." And she did. For over an hour, she unraveled her side of it all. How loneliness crept in like mold, unnoticed until it covered everything. How she tried to speak up, but I was always so good at not noticing pain. How it began with a message out of curiosity, not intention, but that curiosity became habit. And habit became hunger. "I never meant for it to go that far," she whispered. "But when you don't feel seen, the first person who notices you feels like the only person who ever did." I let her speak. I didn't interrupt. I didn't soften. I just listened, filing each sentence into the ledger I'd been keeping in my mind. When she finally finished, I stood. "I'm going to take a shower," I said. And I left her sitting there, alone with her truth. Monday morning, I dressed for work as usual. As I tied my tie, Hannah stood in the doorway. "I scheduled a counseling session," she said. "Just the two of us. Thursday evening. If you want to go." I adjusted my collar. "I'll think about it." That week, something shifted. Hannah stopped trying to win me back with gestures. She gave me space. No long talks, no sudden hugs, no forced smiles. She focused on the kids, on her job, on herself. And strangely, that restraint made her feel more human again. But I wasn't done yet. Because part of me needed her to feel what I'd felt. Not just guilt, not shame, but that deep, gnawing violation, the slow bleed of trust from the inside out. So I took one final step. Thursday afternoon, I sent out a group email. Not to family, not to friends, but to them. The men she'd messaged, flirted with, met. It took days to gather their contacts. I'd pulled names from the message logs, run reverse searches, scanned LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, found emails, workplaces, even spouses. And then, from a newly created anonymous address, I sent it. Subject: you should know who she really is. Attached: a PDF of her messages, redacted names, but clear enough in tone and detail to be unmistakable. The body of the email was short. This is the woman you've been messaging. She's married. She has 2 kids. And she was never who she claimed to be. Thought you deserved the truth. Someone who used to matter to her. No signatures. No threats. Just exposure. I didn't want revenge through destruction. I wanted revelation. I wanted the mirror turned on her. Thursday night, as I sat in the counselor's waiting room beside Hannah, her phone vibrated once. Then again, and again. She glanced at the screen, eyes narrowing. Her hand trembled as she opened one of the messages. Her face drained of color. What is it? I asked, voice even. Her eyes met mine, wide and betrayed. You sent them. I didn't answer. You sent them everything. Still, I said nothing. We sat in silence as the receptionist called our names. The counseling session was quiet. The therapist, middle-aged, compassionate, maddeningly neutral, asked questions. Simple ones. Why are you here? What are you afraid of? What do you hope to get from this? I answered calmly. Hannah did too. But something had fractured. She knew now that she wasn't the only one capable of secrets. And that my silence had teeth. I don't want a divorce, she said. And I, for the first time, said, I don't know what I want yet. The next day, I received an unexpected email. It was from Andrea, Greg's wife. Subject line: thank you. The message was short. I had no idea. I never would have known. I confronted him last night. He admitted everything. We're separating. I needed the truth, even if it hurt. Thank you for giving it to me. I sat there, staring at the screen, feeling nothing. No satisfaction. No joy. Just a grim stillness. I had torn open someone else's illusion, just as mine had been. That didn't make us even. It made us alike. Hannah's messages stopped. No more apps. No more secret chats. Her phone, once a portal, now lived mostly on the kitchen counter, untouched. She was different now. Not better, not worse. Just stripped down. Raw. And I was tired. More tired than I'd ever been. We didn't speak much that weekend. Until Sunday night. She stood in the doorway of our bedroom, holding her phone. There's a conference next month, she said. It's in Charleston. My firm asked if I wanted to go. I looked up from my book. And I told them I'd only go if you came with me. I said nothing. She nodded. I just thought I should say it out loud. And she left. That night, I stared at the ceiling, wondering if love was something you could stitch back together after it had been torn to shreds. If truth could survive that kind of surgery. If marriage could. Or if, like glass, it simply cracked and cut forever. But the next morning, something happened. As I prepared for work, I opened my laptop to check the clone one last time. It was empty. Not deleted. Erased. She'd factory reset the device. The second phone. The one she thought I never knew about. The phone hidden in the vent. She'd found it. She knew. She knew everything. And she didn't say a word. I never asked her how she found the second phone. Maybe she spotted me near the vent. Maybe she retraced her own steps and realized the hiding spot wasn't as clever as she thought. Or maybe, and this was the thought that kept me up, maybe she'd always known I was watching and chose to let me. But when she factory reset that phone, she wasn't just erasing secrets. She was sending a message. I see you too. In the days that followed, the air between us turned dense, not hostile, but heavy with mutual awareness. A fragile détente. We were two people who had burned the bridge between us, then agreed, without speaking, to meet in the ash and pretend there was still a road. Every glance was measured, every word filtered. We stopped speaking about the affair, the fallout from that fallout. Instead, we talked about groceries, the school play, Max's spelling bee, Ellie's new obsession with origami. We functioned, but we were no longer a marriage. We were a truce in human form. The kids never noticed. Or if they did, they didn't ask. Maybe we'd both become good at pretending. Too good. The Charleston trip was 2 weeks away when she brought it up again. We were standing in the kitchen, both drinking from separate mugs. No eye contact. The offer still stands, she said. I raised an eyebrow. The trip? She nodded. I don't think I'd enjoy playing the supportive spouse in a conference room full of strangers. That's not why I want you there, she replied. I want us out of the house. Out of the quiet. The quiet. That's what she called it now. The absence of us. I'll think about it, I said. I didn't tell her when I booked the flight. I packed the day before the trip while she was at work. We flew out on a Thursday. The hotel was high-end. Her company was footing the bill, but sterile. Floor-to-ceiling windows with ocean views, white linens, chrome faucets. Everything pristine. Nothing personal. We didn't sleep together that night. We didn't even undress in the same room. Friday morning, I went for a walk alone while she prepped for her panel. I passed tourists taking selfies, street artists sketching lovers. I watched strangers touch each other casually, without caution or cost. I wondered if I'd ever feel that kind of closeness again. I returned to the hotel around 10 a.m. and saw something unexpected. The red scarf, tucked into her travel bag. I hadn't seen it since that night. Corner cafe, 6 p.m. Her smile meant for someone else. It hit me like a sucker punch. The scarf was a symbol, a thread pulled from the entire tapestry of her betrayal. Why would she bring it? I didn't ask. But later, while she was speaking on a panel about brand identity and market perception, I sat in the back row and couldn't stop staring at that red scarf wound around her neck again like it meant nothing. That night, we had dinner in the hotel restaurant. A table by the window, candlelight flickering between us. She wore a black dress. Simple, understated. I wore a button-down she once said made me look like someone who'd figured things out. We talked like old friends at first. Light laughter. Mutual observations. Slowly, the facade began to soften. By dessert, she reached across the table, brushed her fingers against mine. I didn't pull away. Maybe I should have, but I didn't. Later, back in the room, she stood at the window, looking out at the water. I miss us, she said. I didn't reply. I miss who we used to be, she added. I walked over, stood behind her, and looked at our reflection in the glass. Two people in a room they didn't recognize anymore. Do you even remember why we got married? She asked quietly. Yes, I said. Because we were too young to realize what loving someone actually required. She turned. And now? I repeated. Now I know better. She looked away. I can't undo it, she said. No. But you can live with it. And you? I took a breath. I'm trying. We didn't sleep together that night either. But in the morning, we shared coffee on the balcony, both barefoot, wrapped in hotel robes, the breeze playing with her hair like it used to when we'd sit on the porch during spring rains. It wasn't romance. It was memory. Echoes. Back home, the red scarf disappeared again, vanished into the bottom of a drawer or the back of a closet. Or maybe she threw it away. I never asked. The days resumed. The routines reasserted themselves. But something had changed. We no longer pretended to be what we weren't. And in that honesty, that raw, uncomfortable honesty, something else began to grow. Not trust. Not yet. But the possibility of trust. Months passed. We went to counseling, together, then separately. We cried, sometimes in the sessions, sometimes in silence at home. We yelled once, really yelled, and then both went hoarse and collapsed in laughter because we sounded ridiculous. We sold the house, bought a smaller one. We started over, same kids, same names, different rules. She shared her phone password without being asked. I deleted the clone software. That was the deal. One day, almost a year later, I found the red scarf again, folded neatly in a donation pile. She hadn't thrown it away after all. She'd kept it, held on to it, then finally, quietly, let it go. I stared at it for a long time. Then I walked it to the trash. She didn't stop me. The last time we talked about the affair, we were on a road trip, just the two of us, no kids. A weekend away. She asked, "Do you still think about it?" "Sometimes," I said. "Do you hate me for it?" "No," I answered. "But I hate what it did to us." She nodded. "Me too." And that was it. No more apologies. No more defenses. Just two people sitting in the ruins of a house they chose to rebuild, not because they had to, but because neither of them wanted to live in shadows anymore. These days, we aren't perfect, but we are honest. We laugh again. We fight, but not like before. And when she reaches for me, I reach back. Sometimes I still catch her staring at me with a look I can't quite name. It isn't guilt. It isn't fear. It's something else. Maybe it's the look of someone who survived their own destruction and decided to love what was left. And me? I look back, because I did the same.